I believe this is the most powerful finale ever composed. I mean, where else does a single leitmotif voice an entire universe made up of 16 hours of music? And what's even more astonishing is that this leitmotif doesn't even come near the 16 hours, but it already contains within itself all the action, all the emotion of past, present and future. As a matter of fact, the music of Die Walküre speaks to all of us, because by exploring the drama of Wotan, the father of the gods, Wagner is exploring the tragic condition of mankind, and the conclusion he arrives at are moving to say the least. As you may know, Die Walküre is part of something bigger. It is the second out of the 4 operas of The Ring of the Nibelungen by Richard Wagner. Luckily, to understand this finale, we don't need to know the entire story, only the third act of the opera itself. The story goes like this. Wotan is saying goodbye to his daughter Brunhilde, who is about to become immortal as a punishment for betraying his orders. But in fact, to Wotan, Brunhilde is much more than a mere daughter. She is a Valkyrie, one of his loyal warriors, but she is also an extension of his own will, and indeed by breaking his orders she was just trying to accomplish her father's deepest desire that he had been forced to let go of. You must know that Wotan is everything but free. He is the father of the gods, but he is a victim of his own rule, that while giving him an illusory power, it takes away all of his freedom. Indeed, he is bound by his own authority to deprive his daughter of her immortality. She had only pursued the same freedom he had always longed for. This is the origin of his frustration, Wotan's frustration, which finds musical form in the most recurring theme of the third act of Die Walküre.
In der Not. Du schufst ihm die Not mit das neidliche Schwert.
The frustration is already evident, but this leitmotif becomes even more meaningful if we consider that it is derived from another leitmotif strongly related to Wotan, the spear. This fundamental theme is associated with Wotan's spear, both the origin of his power and his resentment, as pointed out by the almost 2.5 octaves of descending scale and by the oppressive orchestration. This explains the connection between these two leitmotifs. What's so powerful about Wagner's idea of leitmotive is indeed their huge expressive potential. Every leitmotif is connected to all the others so that they can develop in musical structure and orchestration to suggest a different interpretation every single time they appear. Leitmotif, by the way, is actually a term despised by Wagner, because he felt that it imposed too rigid a conception compared to the flexibility of meaning he intended. Nevertheless, nowadays it is common language, so we shall not avoid it. Coming back to our finale, the intertwining of leitmotifs is also exactly what makes us feel that a seed of hope has been planted with Brunhilde's betrayal of her father's orders. Her fault lay in refusing to kill a young hero and his beloved, and in the long confrontation with Wotan, she recalls the compassion she felt for the love of those humans Wotan himself had once cared for. This compassion is what moved her to act against her father's orders, and when she explains it to him, she sings a touching melody which is nothing but a transfiguration of Wotan's frustration. This compelling moment tells us that with the human love she witnessed and the compassion she felt, Brunhilde is about to redeem Wotan himself. The free love of those mortals is the key that will eventually lift the curse that afflicts the gods. This is what Wagner is telling us with this wonderful passage. However, the fate of the world is yet to be determined. Wotan must cast a spell on his daughter to make her fall asleep. The first man to find her will awaken her and make her his wife. Brunhilde is despaired at the thought of becoming the wife of an ordinary man, so she asks her father for a last wish. She wants to be surrounded with a circle of flames that only a hero could ever cross. Wotan is moved by his daughter's cries, so after a moment of hesitation, he agrees to her request and he says his last goodbye. Then he casts a sleep spell and gently lays her to rest. The music playing in the orchestra during this entire scene is incredibly moving. But in this moment of melancholic love and renunciation, a spark of hope appears. Wotan has cast the spell of fire, and now all his love for Brunhilde and his hope for redemption come out when he pronounces the last words of the opera. Wer meine Speere Spitze fürchtet, durchschreite das Feuer nicht. He who fears the tip of my spear should never cross the fire. What makes these words so meaningful is the fact that they are pronounced to the melody of Siegfried's leitmotif. Siegfried is the fearless hero who will eventually cross the fire, awaken Brunhilde and fall in love with her. The couple will lift the curse that afflicts the gods with their sacrifice. But to be honest, in my opinion, all the events that take place after this finale are almost superfluous, because in this finale we already witnessed the redemption that will take place in the last opera of the cycle, the Götterdämmerung. Indeed, we have even already listened to the leitmotif that will characterize the very last moments of the entire ring. I am talking about a leitmotif that appears only 2 times in the whole cycle, once here in the third act of Die Walküre and once again in the last bars of the Götterdämmerung. The moment this leitmotif appeared for the first time is the moment in which Sieglinde, the woman saved by Brunhilde, expresses her gratitude for the compassion shown by the Valkyrie. Her words are sung to this beautifully simple melody which foreshadows the denouement of the entire ring. The excitement expressed by Sieglinde doesn't come, however, from having her own life saved by the Valkyrie. It comes from something Brunhilde had just announced her. The woman was carrying a child destined to become a hero. That child is none other than Siegfried, and this is his leitmotif, heard for the first time during Brunhilde's announcement of his future birth. This is the leitmotif that plays the most important role in our finale. It represents Siegfried and his freedom, born from the love of 2 humans, a spark of hope in a world wrecked by the fight for power. Siegfried's leitmotif presents similarities to his parents' leitmotif and also presents similarities to the sword motif associated with his vital force. It also feels like the inverse of the motif associated with the curse. But despite all of this, Nonetheless, it feels like something fundamentally new. And that's part of what makes it so meaningful, but it becomes even more meaningful when associated with the other leitmotifs that are part of this finale. By the way, if you enjoy discovering new perspectives on operas and classical music, then make sure you subscribe, because this is exactly the purpose of this channel. There are a few interesting videos coming out in the next weeks and I hope you like them. Now hold on tight, because this is the Valkyrie's finale. Wotan's goodbye to his daughter is accompanied by a leitmotif that represented Brunhilde's anxiety in having to become immortal. Now that he has been moved by her prayers, this leitmotif is transfigured into a much lighter version to represent their everlasting bond. Anyway, if you want to know even more about Wagner, in the description I left you a link to my favorite edition of his autobiography, Mein Leben. You should definitely check it out, because it's also an entertaining read, a funny read, because Wagner wrote it almost like an adventurous novel. The victory of love over power, achieved through Siegfried and Brunhilde's freedom, will eventually redeem Wotan and grant him the peace he has always longed for. All of this is foreshadowed in the last words of the opera, when Wotan's affection for his daughter lights up a fire that will eventually open the way for a new world.